Today, I'm here to talk about kind of the evolution of ecological state protocols and really grounding how ecological state protocols are kind of the pillar for MRV. And so before really getting into this, maybe just sharing a little bit about kind of the challenges that I've been seeing in the space in, working with Regen the last few years and having spent, the better part of, 8 or 10 years in kind of the academic and applied science sphere. And so, here at Regen Network, we're really trying to reward regenerative projects and fund the adoption of more holistic land management practices. And what we're finding is that in order to do that, a new set of protocols is needed to provide legitimacy to the claims-related ecological state. And there are a lot of recent improvements in state-of-the-art science, spatial data science technologies that have really positioned researchers to develop a new suite of MRV tools, which can be used to track positive externalities of environmental stewardship. But similarly, there's this lack of connection between the academic research community and the applied sciences, which is making it really challenging to quickly develop and deploy ecological state protocols. And so, we really need to bridge this gap to accelerate the rate at which we're building MRV tools, providing pathways for land stewards and earth stewards to engage in the world of regenerative finance. And for us, the success of this lies in Regen Ledger, which provides an open source methodology development platform for building the infrastructure for centralizing in-field measurements, digital management records, geospatial data sets to provide the foundation for ecological state protocols. And just to dive in to Regen Ledger, so Regen Ledger is our blockchain. It's built on the Cosmos SDK, and it is an application-specific blockchain designed to track all information on claims-related ecological state. And so this could be, the data that's used in the MRV process, but it's also the actors involved. So who's making claims about what? How are communities governing the standards by which we're developing methodologies or projects or paying for regenerative practices? And so on Regen Ledger right now, we have our three first modules. The first is our eco credit module, which provides basic functionality for creating credits, whether it's carbon credits, biodiversity credits, trading, retiring those, bundling them, putting it in IDC. We have our ecological claims data module or our data module, which allows people to anchor and attest to pieces of data on chain, which essentially provides a digital audit trail of the information that go into claims. So people can upload, a hash of their data and say, to the best of my knowledge, this data exists at this point in time, and I'm going to attest to that. And then we have our groups module, which allows people to engage in decentralized governance of certain processes that go into claims creation or digital MRV. And so just sharing a little bit about, the digital MRV, it's like a huge space and there's a lot of challenges, from adopting a practice to actually generating some sort of credit or proving that you did something. You have to collect on the ground data, you have to clean it up, you have to model it, maybe incorporate remote sensing data. You have to, ask questions about what standards are out there and what people are accepting, is it IPCC standards? Is it, the rules outlined by voluntary carbon markets? How can we be at that bleeding edge of innovation and balancing it with, what's currently out there? And so, all of our digital MRV is again stored on our blockchain ledger. And so, what we really believe is kind of in nested and composable governance. And so through our groups module, through our data module, and through providing functionality by which people can create their own standards and govern them and attest to different pieces of validity, we really hope to provide the foundation where we're providing a very granular audit trail and engaging the entire community of land stewards, science technologists, venture capitalists, in the process to create claims. And so, here at Regen, the foundations for MRV, and the thing that we're really focused on is to magnetize a community of scientists and technologists to unlock creative energy, to develop tools which monitor planetary regeneration. And, we're doing that in service of Earth stewards. We want to make people feel comfortable about making the shift towards regenerative practices and actually get funding for those. And so we really believe in scientific integrity, transparency, open source, software development, things like that. And just to get into some examples of what MRV looks like here at Regen Network, I just picked out 2 quick pilot projects that we're working on. One, a lot of you might be familiar with, which is our remote sensing approach to track soil carbon in grazing systems. And so to do this, we're combining, in-field soil samples with remote sensing data, Sentinel-2 specifically, where essentially we're tying together in-field soil samples for soil carbon with, satellite images. And then we're actually applying statistical models, whether it's, linear power regression or random forest or other machine learning models to create a kind of percentage of soil organic carbon map that interpolates what soil carbon might look like at unsampled locations. And how this relates to carbon claims is through using, in-field soil samples and remote sensing, we can reduce the amount of soil samples needed, reduce the costs, and create this map of what soil carbon would look like. And then through time, we could track changes in soil carbon. And so this is an example of one of our pilot projects where between 2017 and 2019, we tracked changes in soil carbon across the different rotational grazing parcels. And then we, modeled our uncertainty, our project emissions to create an estimate of the creditable carbon change. And another one that we're working on is similarly for rotational grazing in vineyard systems, but in contrast to a carbon-focused or outcome-based approach, we just want to verify that people are doing these practices because we don't always need to invest into carbon credits. Sometimes we just want to invest into the practices themselves. And so what we're doing here is we're using remote sensing imagery and specifically an index called the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, which tracks vegetation health and looking at that through time to see when there were drops in NDVI and see if we could remotely verify that grazing had occurred. And so here's some graphs of, you can see that the vegetation health was going strong, grasses were growing, and then there's a sudden drop, which would indicate that sheep had actually been there. And so, this is kind of a graphic of what this looks like. So you can see what the NDVI looked like before grazing, and then you can see that drop, and it happened after what happened after grazing. And so we're bundling this into kind of a new credit, an environmental stewardship credit, and really hoping to engage the community that's working on these projects in this process. And so we have land stewards that are driving around these parcels and creating these parcel points. We have people collecting soil samples in the field. And then similarly, we have remote sensing specialists on the other side of the world working on developing the tooling, the MRV tooling, to actually measure what's happening on the ground.
Hey, Sam,
and so just to give you a sense of what else,
just want to let you know you're about a minute over time, and just heads up.
Well, sweet. Well, I guess I'll just end with, right now we have about 40 methodologies in development. That's about 12 million hectares of, regenerative work in the pipeline. And we have credits spanning from blue carbon to ocean conservation to soil carbon, agroforestry, biodiversity, species protection. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ping me or ask me after. So thanks.